Welcome back to Reimagine 2020. I'm Yonah Hochhauser, and today I'm glad to be joined by Nimrod Lehavi, co-founder and CEO at Simplex. Nimrod, thanks so much for joining us.
Gladly. Always happy to.
First off, I must tell you, you have one of the better backgrounds that I've spoken to in this conference. I'm loving the unicorn. Great job there.
And the whiskey.
Yeah, and the whiskey. Perfect. So now that we see a background on your video, could you give us a little background on who you are and how you got into blockchain?
Sure. So I'm Nimrod. I'm CEO and co-founder of Simplex. Simplex provides on-ramps for most of the outlets where you can buy crypto with credit cards. We're just very soon we're launching the ability to buy with SEPA bank transfers and later on Swift bank transfers, and also the ability to sell your crypto directly to your bank account. We're providing individual named bank accounts to our users. And I got into crypto kind of by accident in around, I think it was 2012. I just read the Bitcoin white paper and really got hooked up, knew I wanted to do something in that space. At the time, buying crypto was super, super problematic because you couldn't buy with a credit card. So, I said, if it's something really hard and nobody's able to do it, of course I'll do it. Because why not? I'm a redhead. And 7 years later or so, we are now working with hundreds of partners. We're pushing transactions in millions of dollars per day. We're trying to support and enable every user to buy every cryptocurrency with whatever means comfortable to him, with all of our huge partner network. And now we're starting to support that network with off-ramping as well. And yeah, I'm just, completely immersed in this ecosystem. I love it. It's insane.
Let's talk about that, because you pretty much, I speak to a lot of projects for these conferences, and they're all trying to attack a different issue. But at the end of the day, they're all aiming, for one of their biggest goals is adoption or mass adoption. They want people to use their project, their protocol, their coin, whatever it may be. But something that's very often overlooked in this sphere is the onboarding, because that, like you mentioned, that is a very tough issue. And so, as someone who deals directly with this, could you kind of explain why it's so tough? Why are credit cards, resistant to allowing people to buy crypto with it? Why are banks resistant to play nice with crypto?
Sure. So again, the reason I believe it's a huge opportunity is, like, if we all drank the Kool-Aid on crypto, then we understand that the market cap of crypto should increase from 350 billion or whatever it is today to, I don't know, $3 trillion. So it has to come, the money has to enter the ecosystem somehow. So on-ramps are a huge opportunity. And with credit cards specifically, it's very simple. I mean, if I'm buying something with my credit card, let's say Bitcoin, and I'm getting the Bitcoin, and then I'm not sure I have, buyer's remorse, I call my bank and say, hey, it wasn't me. I'm getting my money back and I already have the Bitcoin. So there's a huge chargeback issue there inherently in credit cards. We provide a full guarantee against that. So we put our money where our mouth is. So with all of our partner network, if a transaction ends up in a chargeback, we cover it. So the merchant is not at risk. So if you send someone crypto for a credit card payment through Simplex, you're not at risk. The credit card companies are also afraid of the FCC punching them in the nose if there are too many chargebacks. So they're not very excited about that. That's one of the reasons many of the US banks don't enable credit card transactions, but rather only debit card transactions. And banks, I think that, we're heavily regulated. We're a licensed financial institution in Europe. We have a compliance department and everything required by law. I think that, compliance officers in general are very risk averse. And banks are very much led by those risk departments and these compliance officers who are, they're trying to avoid risk any possible way they can. And crypto is a huge risk, regardless of the way you look at it, and it requires a lot of understanding. I think one of the reasons that we're successful in this field is because we understand the crypto ecosystem very well. We've been around for 7 years as a company. I've been around couple of years before that in the ecosystem. But we also really understand well the banking ecosystem, the regulatory ecosystem, and we understand how to kind of, walk between the raindrops.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a really, really interesting dilemma and problem that you have to solve with crypto that I think most people don't realize is that with credit cards, there are chargebacks. And usually you could receive the item back, but inherent to cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology, there is no charging back. Like you said, they're going to keep that crypto. And so does that remain the biggest limitation, the biggest barrier for entry for people purchasing credit cards, more so than the regulations? As in, if you're willing to guarantee the credit card company that even if there's a chargeback, you're going to cover it. Is that the main draw? Is that the main barrier of entry? Are they going to be sold for that?
So I think that, at least for Simplex, the biggest competitive advantage and the reason we're successful in this field is because we provide that guarantee. So it's, we've built our own proprietary risk system. For the past 7 years, my two co-founders were in PayPal for another 6 years working on similar systems in PayPal for non-crypto, but still. So we have, decades of experience in fraud prevention in credit cards. So I think that's something that, without that guarantee, I think most merchants would be insane to accept credit cards, literally. With bank transfers, it's slightly easier. With ACH in the US, it's pretty hard if you're still exposed to the chargeback issues there. Where, spoiler alert, we're going to handle that in the future as well. But right now, it's still difficult. And, many times when you want to make a purchase of anything, you want to do it now. You don't want to do it like in 3 days. You want to trade now, especially with DeFi going insane, projects coming up and down in 8 hours. You want the money now. So I think that, again, the way we provide the service is pretty much the only way that the service has justification to exist in the crypto ecosystem.
Mm-hmm. Well, like you mentioned, a lot of your C-suite members came from PayPal, came from kind of the traditional, or it's funny now that nowadays PayPal is the traditional finance where you'd ask 5 years ago or 10 years ago, they were the new players, but they worked in both fields. So kind of they have an insight. How does crypto payments, and obviously the chargeback is the big one, but do crypto payments also differ in other ways from traditional online payment processing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, crypto is by far the riskiest vertical on which to provide the service we provide. It's first of all, it's really 24/7, 365 global. If you're selling iPads online, you have some margins. Like if you got a chargeback for $100, you probably lost 80. If you got chargeback on crypto for $100, you lost 99.9. So loss rate is way harder. There's literally no recourse. There's no shipping address. Everything is gone with a wind. Literally nothing you can do. And on top of that, you have all the regulatory risk of providing crypto to someone who's money laundering, terror acting, and all that crap. So there's a lot of inherent risk in that in providing this service here. And I think to some extent people don't understand it. I still thank God we still have a lot of outlets to sell the service to, because most of the ecosystem still don't support credit cards. But I think that gradually it's changing. It's becoming way more accessible, way easier. Our platform as well is improving a lot to reduce friction from new users, from repeating users. It's pretty much 2 clicks and you have whatever you wanted to buy. So yeah, I think there's still a lot of potential for improvement here. But gladly we're grabbing that potential by the horns.
And I'm assuming when onboarding with a credit card, obviously there is AML and KYC inherent in that transaction. So there's not really an issue of money laundering when it comes to credit card onboarding, because you're giving the authorities that paper trail from point A to point B quite clearly.
So, Bitcoin has a pretty good paper trail regardless. I think Vincent said it like 10 years ago that it's less an effective means for money laundering than cash. So, it's always there. We are enabling users to have up to $150 worth of purchase without KYC, just as kind of a taste. Risks are rather low there, and it's kind of a gateway for them to come and see it's not that bad, and then they can add KYC and make larger purchases. Now with adding the banking solution as well, they'll be able to have basically unlimited purchases in amounts, which resonates with DeFi these days. But yeah, generally speaking, I think I take great pride in the fact that we're pushing millions of dollars into the ecosystem on a daily basis of safe money. Keeping out the bad guys. I think it has a massive effect.
And when we're looking at still the difference between the challenges of buying crypto with credit cards. So one of the issues is chargebacks, and obviously you guys using I'm sure some sort of advanced AI, machine learning, kind of mitigate those risks enough to make it profitable. What about the other side of credit cards, where you're borrowing credit? I could buy something beyond my means using a credit card, and then when it comes to paying off that credit card bill, if I can't afford to pay off that credit card bill, they might take back that object. They might put a lien against my assets. How do you do that with cryptocurrency? What's stopping me if I buy beyond my means the amount of Bitcoin, and then it comes to pay my credit card bill and I can't pay that? Who's taking that loss?
So that's basically the reason I mentioned earlier that many American banks have stopped credit card payments for the crypto ecosystem. They can't stop debit cards because there's a legal precedence of you spending your money is a form of you expressing your freedom of speech. So debit is your money, but credit is their money. So many of them are blocking the credit purchases. But it's just like if you went out and bought, stocks. I don't think they can handle, finding the paper trail of stocks where you put them. It's pretty much the bank's issue. And again, in the US, they have their own credit rating issues. Rest of the world, I've never heard of an actual issue with that. So I don't know. I don't have any insight on that.
Okay, that's not you. You guys aren't taking that risk. That's not on your end.
No, but we would have seen that. Because it would have came back as chargebacks, and we just don't see it. Again, the average transaction with credit cards is like $600-700. It's not huge.
Wow. And this is all the on-ramp for crypto. But what about the off-ramp? Still there's major challenges to off-ramps. A lot of banks in a lot of countries. I know we both live in Israel, and good luck there. There's a lot of challenges, in many countries, off-ramping cryptocurrencies. Do you foresee also an opportunity there and a solution there to kind of fix that problem as well?
Absolutely. We're going to launch that in a matter of weeks, so I don't mind about it openly, but we're an EMI in Europe, electronic money issuer. So we are offering banking, crypto-oriented banking services to users. Users who come through our partners are able to open a bank account in Europe on their name with their own IBAN, to which they're able to wire money in and out instantly, easily, because it's an actual bank account. And through the interface, they're able to sell crypto directly. So, it takes you like 10 minutes, you sold Bitcoin and you have euros in your bank account. If you're European, it's easier, faster, naturally, because you're European. But you don't have to be European. It's currently blocked for Americans completely until we complete the licensing in the US, and then we can provide it properly for Americans, which we're seeing tons of demands for that. But essentially, it's solved. Now it's only a matter of adoption. But for users now, through the Simplex partner network, to get to open a bank account and sell Bitcoin and get euros in the bank account is like 10 minutes and you're done.
And that will require users to open up a new bank account, or could they connect their current bank account?
No, they can't. Again, usually your current bank account is not very friendly to crypto. I think the biggest thing here that unless you've tried in the past to wire money to your bank account from a crypto outlet, maybe you're not familiar with that, but if you had, you're definitely familiar with that. And the fact is that you have With Simplex, you have another bank account on your name. And when wiring money from a same beneficiary, different account, things tend to be way easier. Because you're wiring your money from a Nimrod Lehavi account in someplace else instead of an X bit someplace else.
So you kind of played the middleman where essentially I would transfer it to this European account and then transfer it to my own personal account, wherever that may be.
Yes, but you're playing the middleman. So the user is the middleman. And on top of that, we've been granted the status of principal member in Visa. Also, PR is going to come in a couple of weeks, which means that we're going to start enabling our partner network to issue debit cards to the users. So any user of our partners can have, a partner branded debit card connected to this bank account, so they're able to spend it if they don't want to wire the money from their named account to a different account. They can just use it with a debit card.
Well, I could tell you already, as an Israeli citizen, I'm excited to utilize that because here, like many countries around the world, it's still very tough to play nice with the on-ramp off-ramp. So I tip my hat to you. I thank you on a personal level for taking care of this issue. But let's switch gears a little bit. Ready? Because we're on top of that. Let's stick with that for a second, then, because I want to touch DeFi with you as well. But this whole idea of we have to find these workarounds because of regulation. We have to find these workarounds because banks don't feel secure enough with the current regulation to gladly accept crypto. Trust me, we all know they like making money. If they knew for sure the governments wouldn't go after them, they would accept money from anywhere. So what is that roadblock? Well, why is regulation still not there in many places that we have to find these workarounds that you're doing? Is it because governments just move too slow? Is it because they still don't really understand the way cryptocurrencies work? Or is it something else?
I think they do move slow. Again, I'm not here to protect the regulators, but still, I mean, they are moving very slow. But on top of that, it's pretty hard. I mean, how would you define taxation on, on the tokens you got from Sushi Swap by staking or, it's crazy. I mean, how do you even define that?
Yeah.
Like a second level pool staking in currencies which are, and how do you define the losses there? How do you follow? I mean, I have no idea if I'm up or down even.
That's a problem that many of us are facing. So let's talk about that yield farming and DeFi. DeFi was always in the background. If you followed crypto, DeFi was always kind of this small crowd. You go to
like 3 years old.
No, it's been there. But if you went to a cryptocurrency conference or any blockchain conference 2 years ago, the main speakers and the big attraction wasn't DeFi. DeFi would be on the side stage. And I think if you went to a cryptocurrency or blockchain conference today, DeFi is taking center stage or having definitely a panel on center stage. So it's made that big leap. And so, a lot of people though are, I think there's two stances. People are really excited. DeFi finally gets its chance to shine, and finally we get this amazing use case for blockchain. But the other side is people who kind of saw the 2017 ICO boom, and which included a lot of legit projects, a lot of real projects. But along with that, there was so much money going around so quickly that, of course, there also were scam projects. And so I think a lot of people are hesitant here with DeFi as well. So in your eyes, how do you view DeFi? Is it the 2017 ICO boom? Is it finally a great use case for blockchain, or is it something in the middle?
I think so. First of all, I mean, even with regards to the 2017 ICO boom, I don't think it was all bad. I think that it brought a lot of attention to crypto. It brought a lot of money into crypto. It educated many people, for better or worse, it still educated many people. It was a boost. It was very interesting times. And, I believe in fast evolution. So I think DeFi is great. I mean, there are tons of crap there for sure. But again, trial and error. That's, the one thing that the heavily regulated ecosystem can do is trial and error. Because, you try, you error, you're in jail. And here, it's proper evolution driven by adoption of the market. You know how your project is good, not because you received the license, but because you brought traction. So I'm fine with it. And again, I think that still DeFi is complex to the point that, most of the people I even explain here in the company what I do not understand it. So I don't think it's anybody, mom and pop shop losing their pension funds on that. They wouldn't understand how to buy the token to stake. So I think everybody who's losing or gaining money here is experienced. And sure, there's market manipulation, but nobody's decentralized. I'm going to get shot on that on Twitter, but Bitcoin is insane. No cryptocurrency is truly decentralized. It's great that we're trying to get there. It's awesome, but many other concepts are super interesting. I think it's just researching them on live subjects, basically. So that's why I'm excited about DeFi. It's really super interesting. And I think that in an ecosystem which is still mostly driven by traders, which is crypto, anything that, makes them jump around happy and brings more capital and more attention into crypto is great. And yeah, I do think that the end game is important for, the change in civilization, but it doesn't have to be all pure-hearted unicorns on the way there.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, you mentioned that you think that, we're not much, or if anything, is truly decentralized here. As even though we call it DeFi, we call it blockchain. And why is that so? I mean, let's take Bitcoin. You mentioned Bitcoin. Is it because the centralization of miners? Is it because of whales control so much of the circulation?
It's just it's a small market. That's all. Mm-hmm. That's the only reason. Again, that there is infrastructure for becoming decentralized. But if it's a small project and the technology is immaculate, still it's not decentralized because 5 people are mining. Mm-hmm. So it has the potential. It could happen, but it's just too small right now.
Mm-hmm. And right now we mentioned Uniswap and DEXs are all the rage right now because powering they essentially power this DeFi yield farming and an ecosystem that we currently see, stable coins. So you are an on-ramper. You're a crypto on-ramper, soon to be a crypto off-ramper as well. Can you see a future or a solution where we're able to on-ramp or off-ramp fiat directly to a DEX?
Yeah, you can buy with Simplex today USDT and put it directly to a DEX. So any ERC20 that you can buy with us, you can put directly in the DEX.
But you're buying it from a centralized location. You're buying it from a liquidity pool.
Yeah, that's true. We're buying from a centralized liquidity provider. That's true.
And do you think? Can you imagine, or is there a way? A future? Do you think there will be a time or some kind of mechanism where you could actually on-ramp and off-ramp fiat directly from a automated decentralized liquidity pool?
I think it could happen.
Right.
I think it could happen.
Right. And would that totally change the game? Would that for whatever reason, either embolden a lot of majority of criminal activity is in fiat. So once that happens, would that then reign true the doomsdayers who kind of blame cryptocurrency, and obviously it's totally unfounded, but people who are ignorant think a Bitcoin is criminal money when it's as far from the truth as possible, as we mentioned before. But if fiat is actually able to be decentralized on-ramps directly with liquidity pools, automated market makers, wouldn't it then be actually impossible to stop money laundering?
Not necessarily. Again, money laundering at the end point is still very. I think I have my best story with regards to that is I think 5 years ago or so we were speaking with. We thought about the legal cannabis industry in the U.S. and all the financial issues they have with banking, and we thought offering Bitcoin as means of transferring funds from one to another. So I was speaking with a guy who was in charge of the non-substance supply of all the other whatever equipment they use in the West Coast, and he said he'll ask some dispensaries, and he did, and he came back a week later and said, yeah, they say Bitcoin is for criminals. I told him, you're a fucking drug dealer. What are you talking about? So, there's some dissonance there, but I do think, and again, I take great pride in the fact that we're keeping the ecosystem clean. Mm-hmm. I think that as long as whoever is handling on-ramps and off-ramps keep it clean, and again, it's not, I'm not trying to be holier than the Pope. I'm just saying, if you had your computer hacked and somebody stole your Bitcoins, you would have wanted me to keep some trace on that as well. So I think it's still in the benefit of everyone. I'm not a privacy nut. I do think, we're entitled to privacy. We don't have any, but we are entitled to try and live in a dream where we do have. But I think, at the end, I can't believe I'm going to say, but I do believe in some regulatory supervision. Otherwise, on money laundering, all the rest, it's free game. But money laundering is sometimes not handled very well. And because money becomes so hackable with crypto, it's important to have some measures. Again, not necessarily the current regulator, not necessarily current laws. Again, it's super difficult. Like, if I bought your CryptoKitty with cash, is it stolen? I mean, do I need to report a different owner like my dog with a chip? I don't know. There are just a lot of concepts here that still needs to be defined.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure, as part of your role as a middleman between credit card and banks and all these financial services, you're probably dealing with regulators a lot. You probably have your compliance department always talking with regulators. Yep. Do you find that regulators are willing to work with you guys? Like they're not like anti-crypto. They're trying to figure it out like the rest of us, and they're genuinely happy to allow it if it's kosher.
Some are, some aren't. Mm-hmm. Some in some jurisdictions they're very savvy, they're very interested, very engaged. Want to understand and I wouldn't go as far as enablers, but they're open. And some are just completely not. In the US mostly.
Yeah, and it's so funny because that really rings true. The US does pitch itself as an innovative country, as we are where the big tech companies live, thrive, and succeed. And if you want to go to the best schools in the world, go to America. Yet they put such a hard time on cryptocurrency there. Why do you think that is?
I don't want to be, culturally judgmental, but I do think that there's, even though Americans perceive themselves as individualists, there's a herd mentality. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, I can't explain the $2 trillion, market cap of Apple. Mm-hmm. Everybody thinks it's just like the Life of Brian, Monty Python, skit with everybody as individualist. I'm not. So this thing, and I think that to a certain extent, it's damaging innovation. Even just the fact that there's so much of the crypto purchases done on Coinbase. I mean, Coinbase is fully centralized. It's contradicting to being decentralized, and still most Americans buy their crypto and hold. Not only buy, they literally hold it in their account there. It's basically just another bank. Mm-hmm. So, I'd say it's a mentality issue. I don't know. I think that there are many jurisdictions which are much more open to understanding the benefits of crypto and the decentralization, and even, some of them are even open to the privacy benefits of it.
Mm-hmm. And along with those more crypto-friendly countries, there are a lot of talk about countries releasing CBDCs themselves. China has for a long time already been rumored to be doing that. If countries do release their own CBDCs, does that make that onboarding? Does that make it so much easier? Would it essentially kind of bring even the fiat money on chain to an extent?
It could. Again, depends on the interoperability. They would still have their own challenges. I mean, USDT on ERC20 got clogged like crazy in the past weeks.
Yeah.
So, pending many different technological solutions, yeah, that could be a leap forward.
Mhm. Well, let's talk about some of those network challenges, because we see that Ethereum has been so successful that everyone wants to develop on it, but Ethereum has been so successful that it is congested and high gas fees. So, why is Ethereum, if it has not shown to scale to the point that people, let's say, want it to, why is Ethereum still the main chain to build on?
What do you mean? Bitcoin still holds more than 50% of the value of the ecosystem, and it's much slower, more expensive, harder to develop on, and it's just a matter of, I don't know, network effect, I'm guessing. So Bitcoin was here first. It just became the market index. I'm still like 90% Bitcoin.
But Bitcoin might be where the majority of the value is, but it's not where the development is happening. The majority of development is happening on Ethereum.
But still, I mean, if the majority of the value was attached to Ethereum, you would have seen the flipping, and you haven't.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm not sure. I think that Ethereum will continue to be number 2, but there will be like a number 3 layer 2 protocol, I'm guessing, which will take a lot of value from Ethereum. But again, will still be less valuable.
And you think that the solution to Ethereum's congestion is a layer 2 solution?
Yeah, I think so. Again, I'm not sure which one. Maybe it wouldn't be just like a single one, but multiple. And
so
again,
you have no faith in Ethereum 2.0 actually ever launching?
I'm not sure. Even if it does, it might not work completely. We've seen a failure in Ethereum fork in the past.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe we'll have like Ethereum Mark III that will be a good layer 2. It could happen. I don't know. Again, being decentralized, I'm not sure how much under their control it is. And it is a burden to move fast when you're so big. That's why Bitcoin doesn't develop that fast.
Right. And Binance now is also trying to draw some DeFi to its smart chain. They recently put $100 million to draw a DeFi project to their smart chain. Binance is trying to become, the entity, the single entity in this space by really putting their fingers or tentacles everywhere. Do you think that they will succeed at that? Do you think DeFi projects will actually go over to the Binance smart chain?
No. I think that considering how fast you can clone DeFi projects, I think that, I think they're working the amount of Sushi Swap clones. I mean, someone will just vampire Binance chain as well at some point.
Yeah. And do you think that's good for innovation? Because let's say, you can't do that in the traditional, tech field. You can't just copy what someone does. But the fact that someone could do it here, it opens up the door for constant innovation, but also opens up the door for nefarious actors and scams. So where do you fall on that? Is it buyer beware? Do people just have to really be aware of where they're putting their money, their assets, their crypto?
Yeah, and again, I mean, as long as DeFi is such a difficult topic to digest, I don't think anyone who's not experienced is risking their money. Mm-hmm. So I don't have a problem with that. It's everybody who managed to do that is a qualified investor by definition. Otherwise, he wouldn't understood how to open a MetaMask account.
Interesting. So maybe there's even an argument to make in traditional finance where we should make the barrier of entry stupid idiot proof to kind of get to. If you're going to be using it, you better know what you're doing, type of thing.
Yeah.
That is interesting because listen, yield farming is I mean, the whole DeFi space is very complicated. Yield farming, all the more so, and I think that's why Yearn has kind of taken off, rocket launched. Is that kind of, has that fixed it? Has that lowered the barrier of entry? Just throw it into Yearn and it will give you the highest API for you?
To a certain extent, but it's a different thrill. Thrill than chasing the next clone and throwing the next, Chad or whatever. Throw some money in and see it, double in 5 minutes or, get wrecked in 5 minutes.
So do you think that's really what's going on here? It's it's a right now, because everyone's stuck at home in Corona, you can't go to casinos. Is DeFi and yield farming right now? Is it casinos for really smart early adopters who kind of want to take high risk and get high reward?
To some extent, but so is the stock market. Usually just the amplitude of the volatility is just way higher. But yeah, I think it's some of them are just like novelty, funny stuff like chat. But some of them are interesting. I mean, Sushi Swap was super interesting. To watch the evolution, to understand what they were aiming to see the huge mistakes and how they handle them. It's like a anthropology research, basically.
Yeah. And it's funny because this, there's billions of dollars in value happening, and the person you're sitting to next to on the bus or sitting next to in traffic has not a clue what's happening or even a clue what you're talking about. Exactly. It's really crazy. You're like, oh, Chef Nomi gave back the money. What? Who's Chef Nomi? Exactly. So, I mean, I find that really interesting. And what was so interesting about Sushi Swap? I mean, they essentially took Uniswap and added a governance a token to that. Does that really change, or does that even add value, or was it actually detracting from what made Uniswap so special?
No, I think it was adding value, and the fact that they vampired Uniswap was even more interesting. Like, hey, it's great that you've built a cool system and huge value over 3 years, which all of a sudden bumped, but like I can drain you in a month. And they're not safe against that as well. You can do, you see there are a lot of new platforms where they just vampire Sushi Swap liquidity. I don't know if anybody's taking that as far as just taking it out completely. The next thing is going to be a layer of interoperability between pools that you will be able to stake them in multiple places, just with interfaces, and yield farm the shit out of them in many new platforms as well.
And I'm sure it will shoot up the second it does.
It's going to tank.
And it'll be a blast to watch. But that's what seems to be happening right now. And I think that the biggest difference between the ICO boom and traditional finance and this was that with the ICO boom, you were kind of giving money, you were getting no equity. You were getting a utility token that you hoped would somehow have utility, and even then the whole economics of it didn't really make sense. But here, I feel like they're using the governance token as that new draw, where instead of saying, oh, liquidity here, you get this governance token, kind of makes you feel like you have liquidity, but what is the governance token really giving you? I mean, you're getting voting rights, but what does that matter if what you're voting on doesn't actually give you value? I mean, what is the governance token? Why does it add, let's say the Sushi Swap example. Sushi Swap, you get governance, Uniswap, you don't. Why is that better for an LP?
Some of it is very meaningful. Like if you can nominate the chefs, for example, it gives you actual power. If you're able to decide to vote on the block sizes, the reward sizes, if you're able to vote on on a bunch of other things, it really depends on like which platform you're talking about. Some of them are completely useless. Some of them are, this is total crap and it's just for additional value to be traded, just for the yield farming sake. But in some, it's very meaningful, I think.
But then, doesn't that then add in human error? Like, doesn't it should make, it makes it a kind of like a communal Binance. Whereas, if you look at a truly 100% automated market maker, you look at Uniswap, they're not going to trade. It's algorithmically programmed to be balanced. It's algorithm. You put it, if too much buying goes on one thing, the algorithm balance. It's all balanced out automatically. There's no human error. There's no human decision changing things. Isn't that what gives it value? The fact that there isn't any humans tweaking these things. That it's just market financial. Makes sense. It's just
not necessarily. I think first of all, as an example, I put a really small pool on a very new coin, like ETH against that coin. ETH was drained, so it's not 100% safe to do that, as an example. And there's this famous example of algorithmic pricing on Amazon that pushed the book price to $8 billion, I think. So, algorithms are not always the right way to go. I think, I think that it makes a lot of sense for this to be, or at least when it's community driven and driven by actual votes. First of all, the personal liability with the SEC drops massively. So I think, it's becoming a safer environment for you to, for trial and error, because error wouldn't end up in Guantanamo Bay. And it's, again, it's pushing innovation. So and it's another way for you to express, new ways of performing something, because usually with a governance token, you're able to offer additional points to be governed. So, it makes a lot of sense.
Right. And, in order to get, the governance tokens essentially go to the liquidity providers. And if you're being a liquidity provider, you probably have assets already. You're probably, you're a have, not a have not. So, doesn't this incentivize, and isn't essentially the end result going to be that everyone governing will be kind of whales? Wouldn't it eventually just slowly but surely consolidate all the governance tokens to the big whales?
I would say, generally speaking, yes, but unlike in the real world where it's exactly what happens, here, if you invested in one of them early, you can become a whale. So if you identified a trend or a specific platform just early enough, or you develop one yourself, first of all, you become one of the haves, and second, you have influence on something which is meaningful to many. So it's not perfect, but it's better than the regular world.
And so then that brings us to the conversation about pre-mining. If we're looking at SushiSwap, there was a big controversy because Chef Nomi essentially cashed out his coins and everyone got super upset, and then you put it back. And what's your take? Is it if I go and I develop a thing and I pre-mine as much as I want and it goes up, isn't it my right to sell off and take the profit?
Absolutely. I think you should have kept the money.
And why did he give it back?
I have no idea, because I think he's pretty young and he's very receptive to Twitter, basically.
Give me the coins. Don't give it back. Trust me, I'll take the heat.
There was someone, I don't remember, someone like, there was a bug on one of the swaps and someone got like $20 million just by swapping. I think it was actually on Uniswap or SushiSwap. Anyhow, there was a problem with the pool. Like, he saw like he's getting like 2,000 ethers. He just clicked, fuck it. Yeah. And he got it. And people were like pushing him to give it back. Like, but why? I mean, I did the trade. If there was a problem in the trade system, it's fair game. Again, code is law, just with a DAO. Yeah. I'm fine with it, especially like Chef Nomi definitely should have kept the money. He built something very impressive by himself. He should have gotten rewarded. Mistakes, sure, everybody makes mistakes.
So I 100% agree with you in your philosophy there that, the code is law. If they make a mistake, you're the winner, great. But at the end of the day, will that essentially stop, governments from allowing it and therefore mass adoption from happening? And that's okay if we don't want it, but it seems like governments, for whatever reason, refuse to allow that philosophy, refuse to allow there was a mistake in the code. So either you lose it, but let's say it happened the other way. Let's say you do a trade, you Nimrod, and because of a bug in the code, you lose all your money. Would you feel the same way about that philosophy?
I've been in the crypto ecosystem for quite a lot of time. I lost a lot of money, potentially. So it's not like it's basically, as I see it, is the extension of the responsibility of owning Bitcoin. You lost your private keys, boo-hoo. There's no insurance. That's life. Be responsible for your own private keys. So if you invested and I got wrecked on, I think it was kimchi or something. I got wrecked. I mean, it's, personal responsibility. I don't do that with a lot of money because I'm 90% Bitcoin, all of it in cold storage. Mm-hmm. It's
smart man.
I don't know if smart, but I choose if you read the Black Swan, It says like it makes sense to be like 85, 90% in very, again, very stable investments like Bitcoin. 10 to 15% in high risk, high reward. I mean, I think it makes sense. And again, everything going around in DeFi, market manipulation, front running, arbitrage, whatever. It's all part of, I see it as fair game right now.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned that kind of the way that you got into all this was that you did read the Bitcoin white paper. And do you feel that Bitcoin is there because Satoshi kind of described something that doesn't exactly exist today? I mean, Bitcoin is kind of, he described, a currency that's outside of government control, but also a peer-to-peer a cash system, which Bitcoin has kind of not become. It like you said, it's where you store the value because it's stable. And then when you want to transact or send, you really you're using other coins. You're not going to the store.
Would have been cheaper the last couple of weeks though than ETH.
Yeah, right. but essentially, right now, in your view, what is the coin? Let's say that you want to go to the store. What coin will that be? Is that out yet, or will we see it?
I don't think so. I think that, again, I believe like in the future of multi-currencies, Bitcoin will remain as kind of a gold standard, and currencies will be, depending on usage. We'll have different currency for different usages. You'll I guess you'll be able to trade them easily or easier, smarter, I think definitely on DEXs. And I don't think there's one specific that I'm going to be, feel comfortable 100% using right now. Maybe, one of the stable coins. But again, I'm not sure if there are central bank stable coins, I'm not sure there's a place for non-central bank stable coins, especially if there's a USD with Trump stamp on it. I don't think there's a for other ones, even though, then it's becoming, it's losing most of the attributes. Like I've already heard stories about USDC being seized by the US government.
Really?
And then, yeah. And that's something which you don't want in your crypto. So it's a bug. That's not a feature.
Well, so then I could guarantee you this: if it does become that the CBDCs are, let's say, controllable by the government, there will be there will always be a crypto version that is totally free and totally decentralized because there will be a demand for it.
For sure, but they could be outlawed. I think I'm a bit surprised right now that the U.S. government is not putting its foot down with regards to issuing dollar stable currencies, because that's supposed to be the privilege of the federal government issuing its own currency.
But they're merely pegged to the value of. They are not actually a dollar. They're just pegged to the value.
Tomato. Depending on which side of the bed.
Okay, so let's say. So let's say the federal government wakes up tomorrow and says, you know what? Any single cryptocurrency that is pegged to the US dollar is outlawed. What could they actually do to stop the usage of it? I mean, it's essentially the on-ramps and the off-ramps.
No, it's not. Only if again, in Simplex, most of the purchases are Bitcoin and ETH. USDT, I think, is fourth. I mean, people.
So how could the government stop the use of US peg stablecoins?
They can damage it a lot. I think only in Texas right now it's illegal. Stable coins are not legal, but I'm not sure. Maybe a few other states. But if they make it illegal, people won't hold them. They will, like Americans won't hold them. Exchanges that are operating in the US won't hold them, won't support them. Just like, it's going to make their life difficult.
But then you'd always have the ability to interact with them on decentralized exchanges and AMMs as well.
They're not going to vanish. They're just not going to be, going to be able to fulfill their potential like they are now.
Okay, and we're up to the rapid fire question section. I'm going to ask you 3 questions, 1-word answers. You can explain it if you want. But first off, will Ethereum 2.0 launch this year? Yes or no?
No.
No. Describe DeFi in 1 word.
Wow, shit show.
I'll allow it. We'll combine it. All right. And last, sushi or yen?
Sushi.
Sushi. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, see,
It's much more interesting. I mean, there's a lot more thought behind that than yen, I think.
is there actually thought behind it, or kind of he stumbled upon a good thought and then recognized that after the fact?
Sushi, I think there was I think it was, a brilliant thought.
Mm-hmm. And there will, and I imagine that we're going to see, this has opened up Pandora's box. Essentially, people have seen how successful. So would you mark then the sushi swap as kind of a pivotal point, a fork in the road for DeFi?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll tell you why. It's like the death of the patent office. Like all of a sudden you can copy the shit out of someone, almost, letter by letter, drain the value out just because your yield farming APY is higher. And I mean, the moment they split, they took most of the pools out of Airflow, Uniswap. So, I mean, I think that most of the value went back to Uniswap, but I'm not sure. I haven't checked.
So then won't that de-incentivize projects from working on DeFi projects? If they know that if it's successful, they will just be copied and someone will add one more feature to it.
I don't think so, because then, I mean, everything is copyable, right? Especially in software services. It's really hard to have a patent over it. And at the end, you have to win because you have just a better product. So if anything, I think it will just, raise the level of innovation of the products themselves.
And last question before I let you go, you did mention that you guys are launching this off-ramp, which I'm very excited for. When could customers expect to see that out?
I'd say 2 weeks, 3 weeks, something like that.
Right after the holidays. Well, Nimrod, thank you so much for joining me. Chag Sameach, thanks for taking the time. Yes. And for all our viewers for Reimagine 2020, I'm Yonah Hochhauser. Thanks for watching.